In this video, I will talk about functions, a very powerful construct in almost every programming language. Python also supports functions. What a function is, let me describe the need of the function by a scenario. Let me give you a scenario. The scenario is, let's say you are writing a very lengthy program. The program requires to print particular messages whenever needed. For example, you need to print this particular message: the task was successful. Let's say you need to print this, and then you have to print moving to the next task, maybe to inform somebody, maybe to inform your client, and then you have to ask, okay, send me the next task because I'm done with the previous task. Let's say you want to print this, or maybe you want to print more or do some more stuff, and let's say you want to do this again and again whenever needed. Somewhere, whenever you complete a particular task or something, you want to print all these messages, and then somewhere else, whenever a particular event occurs, you need to print all these messages again. Now, one way to do that is to write just these print statements whenever needed in the program. One way is, if you want to perform a task and the task has a lot of coding, maybe very small amount of coding, or maybe a very large amount or magnitude of the coding. In this case, we have just 3 statements, but maybe we have a task that we want to perform again and again, and it is really a very lengthy task in terms of the coding. So one way to do that is to just write all the coding in coding somewhere and define a function. And that function means the function contain all the tasks that you need to perform. Whenever you need to perform that particular task, just in your coding, just call this one statement, and the whole task that is written under this, maintaining this as a heading, that will execute automatically. That task that is under this heading may be very lengthy, maybe short, maybe complicated, maybe simple one, or anything. But the need is, we want to perform this task whenever we need, and we do not try to code this again and again. We do not want to write the same lines of codes again and again and again and again in our program. Just write this particular lines of code once, define a function just like a task. Whenever you need to perform that task, just call the heading or the name of the function, and the whole task under that function will execute. Functions in almost all programming languages, they do that. Even in mathematics, they do that. In Python, the syntax of defining function is, if you want to define a function, you have to first start with DEF, meaning definition or defining. Then you need to write the name of that function. The name of that function, name of function and name of variable has resemblance. The name of function should be descriptive. It should portray what the function actually is doing. So it is good to suggest the names of the functions that are very descriptive to make the code readable and manageable. So here I have written the function name as print success. You can write any name. Then you start parentheses, then you end parentheses, and then you write a colon, like you have written the colon for if conditions or for loops or any other constructs. And then you do indent, like the body of the for loop, like the body of the if condition. This is the body of the function. Body of the function should all be aligned. Then you write all the tasks, all the coding that you need to be performed whenever this function is invoked or called. This body can contain if conditions, for loops inside. This can have a whole lot of coding inside it. And whenever you will call this function, whenever you will type this command, wherever in your coding, the whole task under this will be executed automatically again and again whenever you like. So let's take a look of defining our first function in Jupyter Notebook. Let's just, yes. So yeah, so that's our notebook. We were populating that notebook. So by the way, if you want to know where this notebook is located, if I want to for example invoke that notebook again, when you will run your Jupyter notebook from the Anaconda prompt, you'll be having all the files that you are working on, and one file is, for example, this. You just click on that, and your file, one or more files, whatever you want to open up, that will open up in the Jupyter notebook. Yes, so it is opening up. It's a lengthy file, so it may take a second. Okay, let me just take a better zoom level just to, okay, so we were working on that notebook. Let's define our first function. Let's say def define. Let's say the function name is print success. That's a syntax. Then you press enter. Print I am done. Then print send me another task, let's say, and that's it. Let's say that's the body of the function. The body of the function here contains only two statements. Okay, then you run this command, just like shift enter. You run this so that it is reported in the symbol table. There is a symbol table inside the Python is maintaining all the variables, all the function information inside. So once you run this cell, then this print success function will be registered to Python, so that whenever you want to call this function again, it will be available. Now, if you want to perform this task, let's say you want to perform this task whenever you want. So you just call this function. This is called calling of the function, whatever I'm doing now, print success, and that's it. You press shift enter, and all the statements that are under this will be executed. And you do some other stuff. Let's say 3 plus 8, that is 11. Do some other stuff, and afterwards, if you want to do the same process again, then you call this function again, and all the coding inside the function will be executed. It is very, very handy if a particular task, if you want to perform that task repeatedly, it is good to just write one code for that task in a function and then just invoke function whenever you need. It supplies a lot of managing power, a lot of debugging power. If you have an error, for example, inside the function, you just go to the code, you just go to the code of the function itself and fix the error and come back. You need not to go all over the code. If you have not defined the function and you have called these lines of codes everywhere inside your main code, then it will become very difficult to handle. And function actually provides a lot of simplicity of managing and readability and a modular approach in that sense. So that was our first function. We'll be talking about more. We'll be talking more about these functions in the next video. So hope to see you in the next video. The function name should be descriptive, that's okay, but it is further important sometimes to have a documentation of the function, sometimes called the doc string. The doc string allows you to write the description of the function, but that description will never be executed. It will be available whenever you need help or you need to know what this function does. Sometimes it happens your function can contain a lot of code. For example, you have a particular function, let's say fun, let's say it contains def fun, and it does a lot of complicated stuff inside, and it is sometimes required to know what this function actually is doing. So this document string is one way of describing what the function is doing. You might be thinking that if you're writing this document string inside where the coding of the function should be written, we should open up the coding file and see what the function is doing, or should we actually open up this function implementation where the function code is written and then we have to read what the function is doing? Actually, Python gives you another power. If you have written the document string inside, that should be a top statement before the first coding statement. Whatever description you want as a document string, it will be available without actually opening up, without actually seeing what inside the function, without actually opening up the file that contains the implementation of this function. Let's see in Jupyter Notebook in more concretely whatever I'm saying right now. So for example, let's define a function def print success 2. Let's say the function name, this function is print success 2. The function name is print success 2, although it's not a very descriptive name, but the spellings are also not correct, but that's fine. Print success 2. Here I just define a document string. The document string may contain maybe just in one line, or it may be a multi-line. It is like a multi-line comment, or maybe a single line comment if you want. But it starts with 3 quotes and ends with 3 quotes. Let's say I write here, this function is doing nothing except printing a message. Printing a message, let's say full stop. And then I further define, let's say I define more in saying that that message is hello, let's say, or any description you want for this function. Now this is a document string and it will be available whenever you need. Now here the coding starts. Let's say you write a coding here and you get hello, let's say, and you run this code. Now let's say we are not seeing this function. We are not available with this function. We are not available with the code of this function, and we want to know what this function actually does. First of all, we can just write, if we write PRI and just press tab, the tab will allow us to access all the functions that are available with prefix PRI. So let's say we go to print success, here print success, S should be capital, print success, let's say, so print success 2, let's say, and we write a question mark in front of it and then just press shift enter. It will pull the document string, whatever we have written, and we will get to know what actually this is doing. So this document string actually does a lot of job. Further, if we, this is kind of whenever we need to know what a function is doing, the document string is one way to just go and check what is happening. Right now, this function implementation is in front of us, but in several times the function implementation will not be in front of us. Several times we will be accessing functions that other people have written in their libraries. And we need to know what those functions are doing. So document string is one very, very healthy way of describing our function. And I will recommend to make your habit writing document strings every time you write a function. I was telling you that if you write a double question mark, then it will not only pull the document string for you, it will pull the whole implementation as well. So now if you see, this is the document string and that's the implementation. So whole implementation will be available if you want. And this is true for the functions that are third-party functions, or some other person have written that function and so on. For example, a function length, we have called that function several times. So let's see. So the document string is return the number of items in a container. That length function is not written by us. Somebody have written that function. That's a built-in function, by the way. And this document string tells us, okay, what this function is doing. We don't have the implementation of that function. Obviously, somebody have written that function. And if we write a double, then we should get an implementation as long as the implementation is not in C++. I haven't told you that a lot of implementation of Python itself has been done in C and some other languages, C mostly. So several built-in functions, because of because of their speed, they are implemented in C, and if you want to get their implementation, they get their code, the code will not be available for most of the functions. So whenever you write a double question mark and the answer is the same as a single question mark, that's an indication that this particular function is not written in plain Python. It is written in some other language and is used in Python. That's another versatility or flexibility of Python. You can engage multiple languages inside. Okay, one more thing. I can write help command, and I can get this print success success2, and the help of print success2 by just typing this help command. So this help will tell us, you see, the help is telling us the document string. I mean, this help on this function. This is the function we have written. This is the function we have written. This function is doing nothing except whatever description we are giving there. If at some time, if we are supplying this function to somebody or making a package of a lot of functions that we are writing, these document strings will help to get to know how to use these functions. By just knowing the function name, this document string actually tells us what the function is doing. Wow, great. Oh, by the way, we haven't called this function yet. We are just playing with the document string. Let's call the function print. Now we know what the function is doing. Let's call this function, and whatever written inside the function will be called. See, this is only called, this is just acting as a comment, and it is basically a comment. Yeah. Okay, great. Stay with us. There is much more about function that we are going to tell you. Hope to see you in the next video.